Hey everybody, thanks for joining me for another video on keeping keto simple and sane. I hope the videos have been fun and educational so far. Please subscribe to the channel if you've been enjoying them and learning from them. Today's topic is near and dear to my heart and probably to yours too. It's the keto police. You know these people, I know these people, you see them all over social media, they're all over your Facebook groups, policing what you, as a grown adult, are putting in your mouth. Isn't that nice of them to be so concerned about you and your diet? I'm being a little bit facetious. I mean, people that do that on social media really are, I think, for the most part, genuinely trying to help and trying to educate. But in some cases, it's the blind leading the blind, and it's really not helping anybody. So let's talk about the keto police. What are some of the lines that they might say? That's not keto. Carrots aren't keto. You're eating red peppers? That's not keto. Excuse me? Who died and made you the keto police? Nobody. Those people are self-appointed keto cops. Can we stop judging and shaming people for what they choose to include in their keto or low-carb diet? Eyes on your own plate, guys. Eyes on your own plate. We're all in this together, but we're in it for our own goals and our own reasons, and we can have our own way of implementing this way of eating that works for us. If somebody is telling you that the ranch dressing that you have on your salad once a week at your favorite restaurant is killing you because of the omega-6, well, all right, let them think that and let you enjoy your ranch dressing every now and then. But I'm getting into detail too much. Let's go back to the notes as usual and go back to the beginning and do this in an orderly fashion. We have to keep in mind, as I mentioned in the previous video, and I think the one even before that, carbohydrate tolerance really varies from person to person. The threshold of ketones, the threshold of carbohydrate at which any one individual will be producing ketones is different. Some people have to stay under 20 or 30 total grams of carbs per day to see elevated ketones. Some people can eat 60, 70, 80 grams of carbs a day and still see elevated ketones. So that's the first issue. The second issue, as I've addressed also in some previous videos, is that the majority of metabolic benefits of this way of eating come from lower blood sugar and lower insulin, not from the ketones. So even if you're not actually in ketosis, meaning you don't see elevated ketones in your blood, breath, or urine, it doesn't mean that you're not still running on fat and that you don't still have a fat-based metabolism. So the issue of whether something is keto or not is kind of irrelevant. But if it is relevant, really, ketosis comes from the total amount of carbohydrate in your diet, not from any particular food that you're consuming. So to say something like, well, carrots aren't keto or red peppers aren't keto, do those foods have slightly more carbs than something like spinach or asparagus? Yes. Does that mean that they can't ever be included in a ketogenic diet? They can definitely be included in a low carb diet, but even on a ketogenic, i.e. ketone producing diet, they can still be included if they fall under someone's individual threshold of where they can produce ketones. So it's really not about any particular food. Again, it's about the total amount of carbohydrate. So for someone to say that carrots aren't keto or beets aren't keto, well, if I take a 1-inch piece of carrot and grate that on my salad, kind of don't think that's going to knock me out of ketosis. But even if it does, even if you exceed your ketogenic threshold at any point in time and you measure right after that and you see your ketones tank, if you're eating a reasonable amount of a food like butternut squash, maybe that's a little bit starchy, or something like carrots or red pepper, if you were to test 3 or 4 or 5 hours later, you'd probably be back into ketosis if your normal default state is to be generating ketones rather than just be low carb and have a fat-based metabolism. So just because something you ingest very temporarily, very acutely short term lowers or like disappears your ketone level doesn't mean that, once that's metabolized and gone, a couple of hours later, you're right back to producing more ketones. Dr. Eric Westman has a saying, how do you turn a 10 carb item into a 5 carb item? Eat half. So it's really not about the food source. Bread is keto if you eat that much of it. Ice cream, regular ice cream, not low carb ice cream. Ice cream is keto if you have one spoonful. So don't let anyone tell you what is and is not keto. Now, the reason it might be best for some people to avoid some of those foods that are slightly sweeter or starchier is not so much because it kicks you out of ketosis, which again, nails on a chalkboard to me. It's not really because of the effect on the ketone level. It's really more because sometimes even just getting that hint of sweetness in the mouth, even from something like butternut squash or beets or something like that, is enough to trigger like more and more cravings, increased hunger. If you are one of those people where it's so hard to keep those foods to a very, very small amount, then you probably are better off avoiding them entirely. But just because you have that reaction to them and you are better off avoiding them entirely doesn't mean many other people can't do perfectly fine, including small amounts of those foods in their diet. And as for food sources, again, with the food police, I'll do a whole separate video on food quality, the grass-fed, organic, omega-3, like I'll address all that stuff some other time, but it's the same sort of thing with the total amount of carbs. Don't let people shame you about the provenance or the quality or the sourcing of your food. You can absolutely positively get wonderful results on a low-carb or keto way of eating food from pretty much anywhere as long as your total carbs are very low. There may be some very minor differences in micronutrient amount, meaning like vitamins and minerals in certain foods, but I don't think that the science is settled in terms of some of those quality issues. And to be absolutely certain, there are plenty of people on extremely limited budgets who do wonderfully on carbohydrate restricted diets, eating fast food burgers every day, eating, ground beef that they buy in those big tubes, those like 3-pound tubes that go on sale very cheaply. And the reason they're so successful on this way of eating is because they're eating low carb enough that their blood sugar is coming down, the insulin is coming down, all the chronic health issues are being reversed. So just don't feel guilty for doing keto your way and the way that works for you. And if that means that you only eat beef and broccoli and cauliflower and chicken, fine. If your keto diet includes almond flour brownies that have erythritol in them, or keto cake or keto ice cream that has glycerin, and it works for you and you're getting the results you want, that's all that matters. If you're a grown adult and you're autonomous over your own body and what you put into your mouth, respect that you're a grown adult who's autonomous and has control over what you put into your body. You can learn from other people, but don't construct your diet based on someone else's belief system or on someone else's religious feelings around food. And I'm going to stop talking now because I'm going to stray too much into the territory that I want to include in the video on food quality. But just remember, there's really no such thing as a food that is or is not keto. It's really about the total amount of carbs that you're consuming. And that's going to differ. And don't go nuts over your ketone level, because just because something reduces your ketone level a little bit doesn't mean that that's a food that needs to be off limits for you. So thanks again for watching. Please link to this video on your social media outlets if you think it's helpful. Again, my website and blog is 2itnutrition.com, and you can find me on Twitter. My handle's 2itnutrition. Thanks, everybody.